Hey everybody, it's Mike from the Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios and brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Moses the Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We're here with the terrific gentleman, backed by popular demand, the #1 best-selling author and counselor, executive coach, international speaker, radio, TV, podcast host, sports psychology, and coach in all faith ministers as well. He began his career in health and fitness industry and named the Mr. Motivation and #1 life coach in the U.S. He's worked with numerous athletes and also former basketball coach. And we had him on last and talk about his basketball ventures. Basketball is coming up as well. He also hosted a show for 27 years, and his new book helps athletes and others with motivation, overcoming challenges, bouncing back from defeat, and also becoming more mentally stronger in any performance whatsoever, whatever it's the World Series, the Super Bowl, or even the NBA championship, Stanley Cup, World Cup, and more. And he's also got a special retreat coming up. We'll be talking about the book, Mental Mastery and Maximum Performance for Professional Athletes. Live, ladies and gentlemen, Plus Studios from beautiful Fort Myers, Florida, not too far from Tampa. And I understand some Buccaneer fans are trying to get some motivation from him as well. We talked about the book, Helping Americans Heal, the ultimate guide to healing during these challenging times. And we're going to need it more than ever. And we've got the #1 master motivator, backed by popular man, the multi-talented David Essel. David, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us again.
Mike, what an incredible introduction. Thank you, brother. Oh, I'm ready to rock with you. Yeah, there's so many great things going on. I mean, from, the books that you mentioned for the professional athlete, helping Americans, and really it's the world heal through these incredible times, which is a book, a lot of mental health issues that we talk about in the book, relationships, that kind of stuff. And then you also mentioned, we're very excited. We have a mental health online retreat coming up. So, Mike, there's a ton of stuff always going on in Esselville.
Yes, it is. That's right. I think you start a new town in Florida called Esselville, and maybe
That's
can,
right.
bring some pro teams over there too. They can heal, they can work, they can win championships and everything. And of course, last we talked about the book, Helping Americans Heal, the Ultimate Guide. And before you give us an update on the book, and once again, very quickly, tell us how you got started on this journey.
Yeah, well, Mike, I started out in the world of athletics, which is kind of interesting. I waited like 44 years to write my first book on my athletic endeavors and all the athletes I've interviewed. But that's where I began. 1979, started doing work with athletes, started doing work with bodybuilders, and it was all about their minds, how to overcome challenges, come back from injury, deal with trades, which we can talk about later on. But, I started out in sports psychology, and then in 1990, I got an athlete, and she came to me and she was complaining about her time. She was a runner. And as she was talking, I kept getting this feeling that there was something that was interfering with her training practices. Well, lo and behold, a few questions later, and she blurts out that, the reason she wants to increase her speed and everything is to get back at her husband who left her for a younger woman. And
Oh, wow.
and she said, I hired you because I want to be the best runner. I want my name all over the place. So he regrets what he did, And so all of a sudden, Mike, from out of nowhere, working with an athlete, I started working with her on her former relationship and how to forgive and how to let go and how to drop vindictiveness. And then that was 1990. And that led into this huge world of mental health, relationships, addiction recovery, spirituality. It really busted that one client busting out this wall because I thought I was probably going to be working with athletes my whole life. But, the other thing that was such a blessing with that time is that I was burning out. I really love variety, just like your show. You have all kinds of different guests on, well, in my work in counseling, I love what I'm doing now because every hour is a completely different game. I mean, one hour could be with an athlete. The next could be someone battling alcohol. The next could be someone trying to save their marriage. The next could be someone dealing with a career crisis. So every hour is a different hour. It matches my personality. It matches my energy. So here I am today now, and we've just put out our 15th book. That's quite mind-blowing because never in a million years did I think I'd ever write one book, Mike. I have no background in English literature or journalism. And a little message before we go on to our listeners and those people with us today. Most of us have never really tapped into our full potential. Most of us play it safe in life. Many people I've talked to said, oh my God, I'd love to write a book. And I'll say, well, why don't you take a course on how to write a book? Why don't you start somewhere? Like, but a lot of people have these dreams, these goals, and they say, well, I don't have this and I don't have that. I don't have the time. I don't. Oh my gosh, we're missing out on life. When you go to do things that you've never done before, like write a book, you're going to learn a lot, whether the book sells or not. And I can tell you this, it took 20 years of writing books before I finally got a #1 bestseller. 20 years. We didn't get any recognition, Mike. I had all kinds of books we were putting out every couple of years. We'd sell a few copies here and there. Nothing happened, but because it became a passion, I never stopped.
Mm-hmm.
And while that instant gratification that we all love, we all want, right? Like
Right,
it's such,
quick, everything like that is getting faster on social media. And of course,
oh,
the media tells everybody you gotta play it safe and everything else. So it's like you're getting just all kinds of things just coming right at you faster than a Tom Brady bullet or something.
I know it. And we encourage people, to take those risks and to grow. Like you starting a podcast, there could be people that are sitting there going, God, I'd love to do a podcast. Well, then start one, go read. How do you start a podcast, and go and start it. Write a book. How do I finally lose this excess weight? Let's get going. The other thing is, Mike, and part of what I'm going to say is because my mom and dad died in the last 3 years.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you. And, there's a lot of lessons that came out of that, but one of the lessons for me is that to remember how short time is,
Mm-hmm.
like, and that's why I say to people, go write the book with no experience, do the podcast, have fun in life, because we do not know how long we're going to be here. Whether it's an accident tomorrow that takes us out, or old age, or, a disease that limits us from doing what we want to do, we need to act now. We
Mm-hmm.
have to stop procrastinating, and all of my books are about taking action, Mike. It's all about taking action. And when you look at athletes, when you look at that book I wrote, Mental Mastery for Professional Athletes, people don't realize the immensity that they put into their mind, their body,
Oh, yes.
training, I mean, and there's a guy that plays in the NBA who I have the utmost of respect for. His name is Bruce Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been traded probably, I think he's on his 10th team or something like that, right?
Really? Wow.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And he's a great player, but he's such a great player, he's easy to trade. You
Mm-hmm.
put Bruce Brown with Kevin Durant and you can get whatever you want, type of a
or
thing,
or
right?
or James Harden, LeBron James, package
Yeah.
deal with that, or say with I'm just trying to think, Malik Beasley, or say with was it Nikolai Jokovic or something. It's like, throw him in. So it's like, easy trades. You're right. So
Yeah. And the cool thing is that Bruce Brown, unlike a lot of pros, he takes it in stride. And a couple weeks ago, a reporter was saying to him, doesn't this drive you crazy that, you're in this city for 6 months, and then this one for a year, and then this one for a month, and then you're traded? And he said, no. He said, it's absolutely a blessing. I get a chance to be with different people, meet different people. He said, and of course, with every trade, the money is there. So no, he said, I know a lot of people struggle with trades, but I love it. I think it's great. If I can go and help a team win games, I don't care where I play. What a great attitude, but that's a rare attitude. A
Mhm.
lot of players, unless they request to be traded, when they're traded, it can be very hard, because they have to uproot their family. We don't think of these things, right? They
Right.
have to uproot their family. They have to start all over again, probably with new banks and all that other kind of stuff. They
Hmm.
have to find
New
living.
banks, new schools, new
Oh,
hotels, new surroundings, or say if you've been with the Milwaukee Bucks, they're used to winning and all that, the Boston Celtics, and all of a sudden you go to like the Detroit Pistons or Washington Wizards, or they
right.
could barely win like 10 games. It's like, it can be stressful at times too. You're right.
Yeah, it really can be. And one of the purposes, I mean, I wrote the book for professional athletes, but I also wrote it for the average everyday person to sort of get a peek inside of what it's like to interview these athletes, what it's like to work with them. What do they do that's so incredibly unique? And the fans have zero patience when it comes to the stars they like. They expect them to be superhuman and never be injured and never have a bad game and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff. And they don't think about the pressure that these athletes are under. Now, do they get paid millions of dollars? Yes. But the pressure is unbelievable. Every year they have to improve dramatically. If you think about LeBron James, and they were talking about him the other night. Of course, when he came into the league at 18 years of age, he didn't have a tenth of the talent that he has now, quite frankly.
Right.
And
Yeah. And of course, graduating from high school, going to NBA was kind of frowned upon, especially with Kevin Garnett at the time.
Oh, absolutely. And if you look at LeBron over the last couple of years, his three-point shooting is at like 40%. I mean, that is excellent for a three-point shooter. He's 6'8", 260 pounds or whatever he is, and he struggled with his outside shot for years and years and years. He wouldn't even take three-pointers. Now he's taking them all the time. So here's a guy that continues to elevate his game. And he's a great role model for other players coming in that say, well, he's just gifted. Well, let me tell you, he's gifted, but he works his tail off. He, in the book, I write about that he puts about $1.5 million every year into his self-care.
Wow.
And that's massage therapy, that's a personal trainer, that's a sports psychologist. He has a whole team around him, right? That allow him and push him to new levels of excellence. So, and that can be said for you and I, Mike. If we look around who we hang out with, are they good for us? Are they goal achievers? Are they trying to make a difference in the world? Because a lot of us, unfortunately, are surrounded by people that like to gripe. They're victims. They want to talk about politics, the vaccine, and all that kind of nonsense just to argue instead of improving their life. We can take a lot away from how athletes have to constantly improve if they want to be better. And hey, we're just the same, whether we're talking about improving our marriage, our body, our finances. It's a daily effort, and it needs to be.
It does too. And of course, it applies to helping Americans heal, the ultimate guide to healing during these challenging times. We'll give a recap on that along with his new book. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com. Powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor, the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you'll love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia. Available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews. In E of 11 endorsed by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and many others. So grab your copy today for Goes Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com or 40 podcast platforms. Heard in 100 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, also Apple Music, Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, LinkedIn, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and more. Take us with you on any mobile device and for great gift ideas 24/7, 365 for family, friends, pets, loved ones. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies, makes great gifts 24/7 for your loved ones. Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Check it out today and support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with the #1 best-selling author, counselor, executive coach, and the amazing David Essel here on the Mike Wagner Show. And before we talk about mental mastery and maximum performance for the professional athletes, whether Super Bowl, World Series, the NBA championship, Stanley Cup, and more. Of course, we're on with Helping Americans Heal, the ultimate guide to healing during these challenging times. And we do need more of that healing. We talked about the book and maybe just to recap how it's doing and why do we need to heal more than ever?
Yeah, Mike, the book was written after this amazing study came out from the American Psychological Association, and it blew my mind. And this is a couple years after COVID. And what they said was that 79% of Americans do not have, and this is the world too, it's not just Americans, don't have the emotional coping skills to deal with the inflation, the COVID, the political insanity, the wars all over the world, right? Like we don't have the coping skills. So anxiety, depression, et cetera, is off the charts, addictions through the roof. And then the other statistic that came from their study was that 80% of marriages in the United States are at the worst place they've ever been. So when we saw these studies coming out, and then I saw in my private practice, Mike, it's identical. We've never had so many people struggling with addictions that we've gotten as clients over the last 5 years. We've never had as many people on the verge of divorce. And I've been doing this 43 years, for gosh sake. The last 5 years, we've had more couples on the verge of divorce, more people struggling with addiction, more people struggling with depression, anxiety, PTSD. So when that study came out, I said, that's it. We have the skills, we have the stories, we have the answers, we have the tools. So helping Americans heal, we took 90 different writings to make this book. Like, I'll give you a really interesting story. There was a woman that came in and said, David, I've been struggling with depression for the last year. The antidepressants the doctor gave me isn't, they're not working. And
Oh,
I want to get some help from you. And I want to get some tools, to start to move my life forward. So we're sitting and talking, and I said, when did the depression start? And she said, about 2 years ago. And I said, what's been going on in the last 2 years, Mike? And this was amazing. In the last 12 months, even, she said, well, the last 2 years I've been depressed, but really everything that crushed me has been done in the last 12 months. I
wow.
came home to a surprise divorce. I had no idea my husband was unhappy. I came home to divorce papers on the table. Within 30 days, I had to be out of the house. I lost my job the month later. My two dogs, 14 years of age, after I finally found a new place to live, died. That all happened in 12 months. And I looked at her, Mike, and I said, ma'am, I have to be honest with you. This is much bigger than depression. You're going through a traumatic experience called PTSD.
Wow.
PTSD is the combination of depression, overwhelmed thinking, anxiety, procrastination, usually insomnia, and some type of an addiction, whether it's food, nicotine, pot, alcohol, it doesn't matter. When you're in the PTSD experience, most people try to lean on something to feel a little better. So that's one of the stories from the book, and then we had stories of couples that during COVID, when it first hit, and for the next couple of years, their businesses slowed down. Well, when their businesses slowed down, they started saying, well, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We have nothing to do. Let's just have a glass of wine. Well, you do that for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden you're in someone like my office, right? Yep. And so the alcoholism had picked up so greatly. And that's when we started getting all these marriages that were falling apart, right? So
Mhm.
they didn't have the coping skills on how to live with each other 24/7 when they
Right.
were used to being apart 10 hours
Mhm.
a day,
Or
right?
it's, like just like, working one job, working another, commuting and everything, and all of a sudden you come together. It's like, okay, what do we do?
Yeah. Well, and so, in the book, we tell stories of clients that came to us in that situation and then how we help them move through it. So it's a very neat book to read if you're interested in your own mental health and
Mhm.
you're interested in relationships and how to get out of the insanity that we're in, because a lot of us are struggling right now, Mike. I mean, myself, others, we go through periods of anxiety during these years. We're not perfect, right? We have stress in our lives. I remember when COVID hit 4 or 5 years ago, whenever it first came out, within 6 months, my whole client base was gone.
Wow.
We had zero client, and we're always packed. We had zero clients. People were petrified to leave their house to come to the office, which I understood. But
Mhm.
then also, they wouldn't even do Zoom or phone because of their finances. So many
Oh,
people.
yeah. Even with the free service and free internet, they wouldn't do it? Oh my gosh.
No, no, because what it was going on is that these are people that were working in businesses that had closed. All the restaurants closed. All of these, and so they were out of jobs. So they needed help really bad, but they had no income coming in. So that, of course, trickled down into our business. Now, the good news is that when we really saw what was going on in the world and came out with helping Americans heal, everything turned around. Like, people read the book and said, oh my God, I didn't realize I was struggling with anxiety or depression or PTSD. I need to call this guy. So then our business just blew up. And in the last 2 or 3 years, it's been just strong as can be. And that book, Helping Americans Heal, was really the start of people coming back to us, Mike.
Mhm. And of course, and coming back as well as the athletes as well too, with the mental mastery, maximum performance for professional athletes. And of course, now's a good time. Super Bowl. You got the NBA championship. You also
Yeah.
got college basketball championships. You got the
Yeah.
Stanley Cup and then World Series, World Cup, and the cycle just continues
It does.
over and over and over again. And of course, you think, playing for a Super Bowl champion is easy. Just ask somebody from the San Francisco 49ers, Kansas City Chiefs, Philadelphia
Yeah.
Eagles, Tampa Bay, Buffalo, Green Bay, even New York, all across the board. It's not that easy, really.
No, it isn't. I've got a great story from the book, Mental Mastery for Professional Athletes. It's about a professional football player. His name is Marquette King.
Uh-huh.
When I met Marquette, he was a punter for the Las Vegas, no, for the Raiders.
Yeah.
And he was amazing. And I got a chance to spend some time with him. And I asked him, I said, how'd you get into the pros? What college you go to? Where did you punt? And he started laughing. He goes, David, in college, I was a wide receiver. I said, well, how did you go from a wide receiver in college to a punter? And then here's the story, Mike, that is so cool. So him and his quarterback every summer would get together and run routes together, when there
Mm-hmm.
was no professional practice. And they would meet at the football field and spend several hours with routes, running the routes. Well, one day Marquette shows up and the quarterback didn't come. So he's waiting and waiting. He's got a football in his hand. He's bored out of his mind. So he starts kicking it, right? Just for the heck of it, pass the time. A coach is walking by the stadium and he sees this football higher than he's ever seen. And he knows no one's throwing it. Someone had to
Mhm.
kick it. So it got his interest. He comes around the corner and Marquette King is standing there with a ball in his hand. And the coach says, Marquette, who else is here with you? Marquette said, I'm nobody. He goes, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm waiting for the quarterback to run our routes, but he hasn't showed up yet. He goes, who is kicking that ball? Marquette goes, you mean a couple minutes ago? The coach goes, yeah. He goes, I was. He goes, son, you just found yourself a new position that will take you into the NFL.
Oh my goodness.
And he quit being a wide receiver. The last year in college, he was a punter. He was drafted really highly. And then last year, he won the XFL championship as the punter for DC United
Oh my
in the
goodness.
in the XFL because he went from the NFL to the XFL, but he becomes a champion in the XFL. And I think the story is so great, Mike, because in the book, what I say is that for college athletes, make sure you're in the right position if you want to go pro. If you're a shooting guard and you really need to be a point guard, talk to your coaches and find out, where is my best shot of making it into the pros? Whether you play baseball, football, basketball, it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Many times we are misplaced in a position. And when we get placed in the right, like Marquette King, when we get placed in the right position, the odds of going to the next level increase dramatically. So I thought, it's a great story and it's a great teaching story, especially for guys in college to
Mhm.
talk to their coaches and say, hey, is this the best place? In the NBA, and I can't think of names off the top of my head, but there are all quarterbacks, Division I, all-star quarterbacks that are, linebackers and defensive backs in the NFL, right?
Mhm.
There's guys that were, defensive backs in college that become wide receivers in the NFL.
Mhm.
So, really talk to people who know the game and make sure you're in the right position because it can make all the difference of having your next career level or not.
Yes, that certainly is too. And of course, I could think of some cases too, like with Tom Brady. He was just an average quarterback at Michigan, got drafted in the fifth round, and all of a sudden fits into the system in New England, and everything just worked wonders in carried over Tampa Bay. And of course, there are some others too that they won as accolades in college, but fail in the pros. And also, a case of Baker Mayfield, we talked about before we went on the air that he was a bust in Cleveland, he was a bust in Carolina, and all of a sudden fit into a system in Tampa Bay. It's the right place, right time, right system, right coach, and everything has to be in place.
So true, Mike, and that's one of the reasons why we wrote the book as well. Something that people don't realize in regards to professional athletes too is the amount of addictions that they struggle with. Addictions in the NBA, addictions in the NFL are huge. Max Crosby, who's a really amazing linebacker for the Raiders, he had to take a year off from football and he spent it getting rehab for his alcoholism.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of addiction because of the pressure. Guys come home and they have a bad game and they're being paid 20 million a year or something like that. It's really easy to want to numb out and not face the reality, So
Right.
we battle more addiction in professional sports than people could ever think about. And then the other thing we don't know, these athletes are away from their children and their wives most of the year. Especially with a sport like baseball or basketball where there's a lot of games,
Mhm.
much more so than football, right? But I mean, they're gone 60 to 70% of the time, and you're trying to keep a marriage together, a relationship together. You're trying to stay connected to your kids. There's a lot of pressure. And when I wrote the book, I want the world to know that their favorite athletes got there because they worked their butt off, but they also have to have a little bit of respect for the fact that if they have some off games, we don't know if they're going through a divorce. We don't know if they're going through some kind of an addiction. We don't know if they've just been benched and they want to play and they're frustrated. There's all these things that can come into play with professional athletes.
Mhm.
A lot of it is mental health too, as well, Mike.
Mhm.
You know,
Also,
we
also coaching conflicts and
yes,
changes. Like, say, the coach gets fired, you bring someone in. The coach could be great, may not like you. The coach can be great, they'll love you, or it's like the coach could be worse than ever. And of course, the athletes these days, they're not taught how to bounce back from challenges, or bounce back from defeat, or say not become more healthy, strong, and everything else. I remember the days in college where it's like a college coach back in the day, like Mike Krzyzewski, or you had John Wooden, or you had
right,
Al McGuire from Marquette, these legendary coaches, even Fog Allen, all the way back.
sure,
They were never concerned about making the NBA and helping you make money and everything. They want to make sure that you get the best education possible
yeah.
and taught you life lessons. And I hate to say it, a good portion of colleges don't do that these days. Teach you life's lessons. In the days of Mike Krzyzewski, putting through a player through a 4-year program and coming out and becoming a doctor, lawyer, whatever it is, it's like those days are gone. Coaches in there, they just prep the player for like being like a number one draft pick or go higher in the draft or anything like that. So it's like a change in landscape gets more stressful, and a lot of them are taught to be basically just hey, prepare for this and life and everything else.
Yeah, and change is hard, right? If what you just said is true, Mike, change is really hard. And athletes these days have a lot more pressure because we know so much about the importance of diet. We know so much about the importance of meditation. As a matter of fact, I write in the book about Novak Djokovic, the top tennis player possibly ever. And what his routines are like, and they're amazing, Mike. Like he talks about, he's extremely spiritual. He's extremely connected to the earth. So he'll say after matches or practices, he will purposely walk in grass with bare feet to ground himself. His
Hmm.
wife and his kids every day get up in the morning, they go outside and they do yoga and they meditate together. He talks about all of these extraneous things that you wouldn't think have a lot to do with being a professional athlete, but in his mind, LeBron James is the same thing. LeBron James does Pilates, he does yoga, he does meditation, he eats an outrageously clean diet. One thing people don't know is that with Novak Djokovic, his first year as a pro was phenomenal, but then he struggled greatly. And they couldn't figure out why, Mike, and he finally ran into this Greek individual who pulled him aside and said, I see your game going downhill and I can help you. And Novak's going, what do you mean you can help me? He said, I think I know what's going on. He said, you have an allergy to wheat. You may have an
Really?
allergy. Yeah, you may have an allergy to milk. And he said, if you can clear this stuff up, now it gets interesting. His parents growing up ran a pizza shop. So
That
he ate,
explains it.
yeah. So he ate wheat probably like way too much of it, and his body couldn't digest it properly. And what happened was within 6 months of going into this incredibly challenging diet, a very strict diet, his whole world changed. His mental attitude changed. Brain fog went away. His determination came back 10 times stronger. And he's an example of so, and Dwayne Wade is another example. I'll tell you in a second. But Novak is an example of when he made a radical change in his diet, it catapulted him into the stratosphere. Dwayne Wade, I remember, this is probably 15 years ago, talking about how a nutritionist had approached him and said, your diet isn't that good. And if you don't change it, you're not going to have the lifespan you want. And Dwayne Wade had never eaten a salad in his life. I mean, that's the word he uses, right? And he said, in that first year with this nutritionist, he ate more salads than he's ever eaten. But he said, you know what? This was the key to my longevity. like changing my diet, having the energy, being able to bounce back after tough game after game after game. He said, I couldn't believe how much it was diet related, you know? So there's, all kinds of stories we share for people. And one, response we get quite a bit from the book, Mike, is that I'm taking the advice of Novak and I'm going to do this. I'm taking the advice of this person and I'm going to do, we get emails coming in, they're adorable, saying, I never thought that I would connect my diet with my weekend tennis warrior play, but I'm going to change and be like Novak, and I just think it's great. We can learn so much from the mistakes these guys have made and women, and we can learn so much about their perseverance. I remember I wrote about Jeff Green in the book. He's a forward playing. Last year, I think he played for the Denver Nuggets and won the
Right.
championship. But he had open heart surgery,
Mm.
where they saw through your chest,
Oh,
and
yes.
yeah, and that guy came back, and he's a great player today. Alonzo Mourning from the Heat, he had a loss of kidney to kidney disease. They said he'd never play again. He came back and played a number of years later at the highest level possible. So, we've got some great stories in that book where people can get inspired and motivated. If that guy did it, maybe I can come back too.
That certainly did as well too, and of course, you're offering a special as well too. Not just reading a book, not just coming to you, but offering a very unique experience to go on a wonderful journey. We'll talk about more of that with David Essel. You listen to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by SonicWeb Studios, and brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing. We'll be back with the #1 best-selling author David Essel after this time. We're back to the multi-talented David Essel here on the Mike Wagner Show. Talked about mental mastery and maximum performance for professional athletes. Now you've got something to talk about, offering everyone to go on a unique journey.
Yes, Mike, we have the mental health online retreat coming up at talkdavid.com. Just go to talkdavid.com. You can read all about it. It's 4 weeks long, very inexpensive, 1 hour a week on Zoom with me. We're going to be doing it on Tuesdays from 7 to 8 for 4 weeks. And the whole purpose, as the title says, a mental health online retreat, we're going to take all of these different mental health challenges that we've been talking about, Mike, from overwhelmed thinking to depression, anxiety, addiction to food, alcohol, nicotine, grief. We've had so many people. I lost my mom and dad 3 years ago. Over the last 5 years, so many parents have died due to COVID, due to illness, due to natural causes, And so we have this online retreat to go over all these different topics. What's the origin of depression? What causes it? What are some of the cures? What's the origin of anxiety? What causes it? What are some of the cures? What about overwhelmed thinking? We have a lot of people that struggle with sleep because their brain doesn't shut off, right? They're worried about money. They're worried about their kids. They're worried about their health, their job. During this online retreat, you'll be able to get answers for all of these different challenges. And it's done in a way, Mike, where we're going to, encourage people to text us, respond to their questions right during the program. I've got enough information to talk for 24 straight hours if I needed to on these topics because I love them so much. But it's going to be 1 hour a week out of your life for 4 weeks, and you'll walk away with so much information. You'll love it. It's all at talkdavid.com.
And certainly do as well too. And where can we find your latest book at and all your books at, David?
Yeah, Amazon.com is where they all are, or you can go to my website, talkdavid.com, and we have all of our books listed there as well, Mike. Oh, and before I forget, 5 of our books are on our website for free. 2 of them are audibles, and the other 3 are print versions that you can download. So you can go to talkdavid.com, get 5 of our books absolutely free. And then if you want to buy and have your own version, they're all available at Amazon as well.
We'll certainly do that as well too. And just a couple of things with David Essel here on the Mike Wagner Show. What else can you expect in 2024 and beyond?
Well, we have a book coming out on how to deepen our spirituality, and that's going to be a huge one. A lot of people are struggling right now, and when the world is struggling, Mike, a lot of people go to spirit, right? They start going back to church when they've never gone to church in 2 or 3 years. When they're hurting, when they're struggling, they look for some help from a higher power, God, universal light, whatever you want to call it. So, the next project is going to be helping people to learn how to create a deeper spiritual experience, more faith, more inner peace, less stress. So that's going to be a big one coming out very soon.
And certainly as well too. And once again, what's your website? How do people contact? Where can people purchase the books? What's your website again?
Yeah, Mike, the website's really easy. Talkdavid.com, because that's all I freaking do, Mike, is talk all day long. Talkdavid.com is where you can, reach me, reach the books, jump on the mental health retreat program, work with me one-on-one. And then, of course, Amazon.com. If you just go there and Google David Essel books, you'll find all 15 of them lined up right underneath each other.
Well, certainly check those out. Once again, with the amazing #1 best-selling author, David Essel, and the Mike Wagner Show. David, a very big thank you for your time. You're always amazing. Looking forward to having you soon. Just keep us up to date. Keep in touch. We'd love to have you back in 2024. Again, what is the website and where can people purchase the books?
Oh, Mike, it's always a blast being with you. I have so much fun. I love your questions, by the way. You ask really exceptional questions, and I appreciate that. To get a hold of me, to work with me one-on-one, or the books, just go to talkdavid.com.
Talkdavid.com. We will certainly check that out. Once again, David, a very big thank you for your time. You're always amazing. Looking forward to having you soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love having you back. Wish all best. And David, you definitely have a great future ahead of you, especially for 2024.
Absolutely, Mike. You have a great day.